Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff. This is Not Just Book Reviews. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeff. This is Jeff Reads, formerly Not Just Book Reviews. And it's been a bit of a hiatus for me. It's been a couple of months since I've recorded a show. Some good things have been happening in my life, but they've kept me busy. I haven't been able to read as much, and I haven't been able to post as much, which was kind of a bummer. But I recently saw a book tag that I got excited about. Criminali posted it. It was called TV to movie, book to TV or book to movie adaptations. And there was a list of prompts. I'm not sure who the original tag was, but I will put it in the show notes, and I'll put Criminali's in there, who did a great job on it. So without further to-do, it's about 7-8 questions about books and adaptations, the ones you liked, ones you didn't like. I found it absolutely impossible in most cases to narrow it down to one adaptation. So I may ramble a bit for each question because it's bringing up some really cool adaptations, and I'm realizing that there are actually more good adaptations than bad, at least for stuff that I've read. So I'm not including things that maybe I know came from books that I didn't read because I wouldn't have any knowledge of, are they better than the book? I don't know. Didn't read it. So let's just jump right in. The first question is, what movie or TV series was better than the book it was based on? So there's a bunch of them. I mean, right off the top of my head, there's Jaws. There's the Bosch series on TV. I read, I think, the first 2 or 3 novels written by Michael Connelly, and they're good. But the TV series, I think, does a much better job with the character and the stories. So Bosch is really good. LA Confidential, probably one of the best. I'll have to make a decision a little later which one's my favorite, but LA Confidential is incredible. One of the best adaptations ever done. Planet of the Apes is way better than the book. If you've read the book, the Pierre Boulle book is very boring. The Pierre Boulle book, kind of in a way, is more like Escape from the Planet of the Apes because it takes place in modern day, I guess 1970s or 60s when it was written. So the Michael Wilson, Rod Serling script for Apes completely departed from that, but I feel like they took the spirit of the novel and they did something way better with it. So Apes is great. John Carpenter's The Thing, much better than John W. Campbell's Who Goes There, I think. First Blood, starring Sylvester Stallone, much better than First Blood novel, whose author escapes me at the moment. I liked Blade Runner way better than I liked Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which I know I'm going to get pelted with rocks and garbage by Philip K. Dick fans, but I thought it was way better. Casino Royale, the James Bond movie, I think the one in the 2000s, and I just read the novel it was based on. The novel was good, but the movie was incredible. And then The Parallax View, which was this wonderful conspiracy kind of thriller. It was written, filmed in the 70s by Alan Pakula, who also, he did these 3 great films. He did All the President's Men, he did Clute, starring Jane Fonda, and he did The Parallax View. And The Parallax View novel is execrable, like it's really bad. And they did a terrific job with the movie. So yeah, I mean, not counting Jurassic Park, like there's so many good ones. But yeah, so those are some notables that I thought. So the second question, what is your least favorite movie adaptation? And I had to think about it. Of the books that I've read, there were only 2 that I really disliked. The first one was the live-action remake of Ghost in the Shell. So Ghost in the Shell originally was a manga. It came out in Japan in the 80s, and then it was made into an incredible animated film by Mamoru Oshii. I think in the 94, 95, I think that came out. Just groundbreaking for animation, groundbreaking for science fiction. It's a beautiful mood piece, like an incredible film. And then they remade it with Scarlett Johansson maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It was awful. It was just god-awful. It lost everything in translation. It was just kind of a basic action-adventure movie that had nothing on its mind except, ScarJo running around kicking ass. So that was one of my worst. And I, Robot was horrible. And I knew it was going to be horrible because for film, in a sense, Asimov doesn't demonize robots. I haven't read a ton of the robots. I've read some of the stories, and I've read, I think, the first 2, Caves of Steel and maybe The Naked Sun, of his robot novels. And so, and he's great because he doesn't. It's not men versus robots. It's like he takes a step further. Like it's so easy in movies, God love James Cameron, right, and Kubrick, but it's very easy to make the AI the enemy. I don't know what they're doing with the subsequent series of Westworld. I saw the first series, and it's humans versus robots. But iRobot was awful. I mean, it was just slick corporate product. It was horrible, and the robots were the kind of the liars and the enemy in the end. And I mean, all props to Will Smith. It just was a terrible script. It really didn't do any homage to Asimov at all. Did not have the spirit of any of his writings. I think they had the three laws of robotics, But other than that, it was a really bad movie. So yeah, those are the two that came to mind right away. So what would I like to see being made into a movie or a TV series? They haven't done Conan, Robert Howard's Conan stories yet. The Schwarzenegger movie was fine, but that was another Conan. The Ralph Mueller TV series was goofy. That was more along the lines of Schwarzenegger as a big, goofy Conan guy. The Jason Momoa Conan movie that came out a few years ago, it was okay, a little bit better, but still, they haven't gotten Conan right. And I feel like you can't do Conan as a movie. There's too much money you have to spend on effects, and Conan really needs to be like a hard R. And I feel like HBO could do Conan, but it's hard because you kind of have to create since everything is linear storytelling now, you'd have to create an overarching longer term Conan story, which there really isn't. There's no Conan's eventually going to go to somewhere and get something, and he's going to win the day. Like it's just very episodic. He's a tomb raider, he's a treasure hunter, then he fights in the military. But the stories are great. And I don't think you've done, Sword and Sorcery hasn't really been done right yet, because Sword and Sorcery is kind of really brutal. It's mean, it's nasty. I mean, obviously, Game of Thrones, but Game of Thrones is still epic fantasy, I think, even though it's kind of grimdark. But I don't think Sword and Sorcery has really been done well without being cutesy and having funny characters. To do it serious, like the Conan stories are. I mean, you can have humor in there, but the overarching tone of Howard's Conan stories is rough. And I would love to see that done to screen, done with someone who just would give the filmmaker, we know it's going to be brutal, and there's going to be blood, and there's going to be all kinds of stuff in there, maybe sex or whatever. Just go ahead and do it. I would love to see that. I was also thinking about Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, and I know Guillermo del Toro has a script. Actually, I have the script. I got it off the internet. I'm still waiting to read it. I want to do a comparison between the novel and the script and do a show on it, among my many ambitions for this channel. But I would love the problem is I think Mountains of Madness should be a movie, because when you get to the place where the characters get to in that novel, it's stupendous. But the problem with that is, it's Lovecraft is not PG-13, and you need PG money to do spectacle, and Lovecraft is not PG. So I'm very curious to see what Del Toro did with his script, if he kept it tough, or he made it family friendly, like family friendly Cthulhu. What is that? Does he have a hat? But I would love someone to do it for real, with some big money up on the screen, and just with the ending that it should have, which is almost impossible. I don't think it would ever get made in that way. Someone will have to take the elements of it and do a cinematically friendly story. But anyway, I would love to see that. Dan Simmons' Hyperion. They've been threatening to make that for decades. It's been in development hell. I think Bradley Cooper bought the rights to it now, the actor. I think you could make it and that would be a good 10 episode. You could do all of the Hyperion books, because it's kind of now the way they do, kind of futuristic scenes, they have these studios where they're surrounded by TV screens. And so they project these fantastical scenes in the back, and they can actually shoot them with real light. Supposedly it looks better. It doesn't look that much better to me. But so I think you could do Hyperion, because Hyperion really is place to place. There are places where you could film for real on Earth, and but you're going through portals. It's a portal science fiction novel. So you're going through a lot of portals to just different places. There's not a lot of ships. There's not a lot of big battles. It's more character based, and the story is incredible. So I think that's an easy in for like Netflix or any kind of a streaming channel. Hyperion. The Chronicles of Amber, Robert Zelazny, I think would make a terrific TV series. Kind of like Hyperion, it takes place in kind of quasi-medieval and then modern day. So I don't think it would cost a ton of money. Again, it's kind of Portal-ish, how you get back and forth between these places. So I don't think it will cost a lot of money. And I think it's a very interesting series. It's very character-based. And I think writers could kind of, pump up Zelazny's work a little bit and make it very cool. So I think Amber would be awesome. I would love Disney to do Timothy Zahn's Star Wars trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command. I think those are they're the coolest Star Wars stories in whatever form. And I still think there's room, because they really haven't, what came after Jedi, in the movies was, The Force Awakens, which was like 20 years later. These Zahn novels are only like 10 some odd years, I think, later, maybe less than, and it's, fledgling New Republic, but it's an incredible story. And that, I think you could do 3 movies possibly, or, some streaming. I could go either way on that, but I still, even though they're considered, was it Legends now? They used to be called Expanded Universe Star Wars, but now they're Legends, but I would love to see those brought to the screen. And maybe if you have to change a few things to make them canon, because if some stuff has changed. I know Grand Admiral Thrawn was brought into the canon universe, so he's there. Those novels deserve something, because they're like, they're head and shoulders above everything else. Half the bloody Star Wars TV shows, So I would like to see those made, for sure. And lastly, something that is it's on its way to get made, Cixin Liu, the 3 Body Problem trilogy. Those are probably some of the best science fiction books written in the last 20 years, easy. And I think the guys from Game of Thrones are making those now. So I think they're going to be coming next year. And I'm looking very forward to them. And again, I think those are esteemably filmable. They're not super effects heavy. I think if you're smart, you can do them. So so those are coming, which is kind of exciting. So, question 4, what movie or TV series deterred me from reading the book? I think when I saw The Expanse, I watched the first 4 seasons of The Expanse, thought it was terrific, got tired of it, didn't feel compelled to finish up. I don't know if it's 5 or 6 or 7 now, but the first 3 or 4 seasons were dynamite. Some of the best science fiction really recalled Galactica in the early 2000s, very similar kind of feel, very hard sci-fi. So I think I watched those, and I was like, I don't really need to read the novels. Like, I think they did such a great job. Why am I going to go plow through the books, especially if I know what's going to happen? And I think I read a little bit of the first one, and the prose was kind of unremarkable. Like, it was decently written, but I thought there's no point. Like, I think they really did a sterling job on the show. And then the Hunger Games too. Like, I saw the first 2, I think, Hunger Games films. I didn't see the rest of the series. And I know the books were widely touted, but I thought, all right, I got a sense of it. I don't know that I need to go and read those books. Not for any bad reason. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't feel compelled to. I didn't think any of the characters really jumped out at me, or that poor book has been imitated to death now. So it's like, oh my God, no more post-apocalyptic, stories like that. Please, there should be a moratorium on them for a while. So I don't feel compelled to go and read those books. Those are the only 2 I could think about. So, favorite book to TV adaptation has to be LA Confidential. The book LA Confidential is written in a very unique kind of Baroque style. James Ellroy, he's a terrific writer, but it's a very weird style. It calls attention to itself. Kind of like Cormac McCarthy a little bit, very similar. And it's great. I mean, I like it on its own, but I feel like the movie, the movie definitely changed some things, and the movie did so much better with the character and the theme of the whole book. And it was what a dynamite movie. It's still an amazing, amazing movie. Frankly, treating themes of race, especially, our main characters their hands are not clean in those areas. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, well, they lived in the 40s. They wouldn't be, So it's a brutally frank movie in that way. But the acting is top notch. The writing, everything. Curtis Hanson was the director, and he knocked it out of the park. So I don't think, you know, obviously you're gonna say, oh, Jaws is the bet, whatever. But for my money, it's LA Confidential for sure. So a previous adapted book that I'd like to see remade or improved, I could not come up with an answer for this. Because it's like, it's a part of me that doesn't really want books that I've read that I like made into movies. Like, I think when I was younger, I was like, oh yeah, they got to make a movie out of this. Now, like, I don't want it to happen, you know, because it's too easy to kind of mess up. But yeah, so I don't really think that anything that's been done super well. I was thinking about The Thing, and I'm like, in a way, movies they're being made in a very different way now. And I think there's so much less authentic feeling as movies. Everything feels like product now. Things don't feel like they used to feel like. That could be me just getting older and having, you know, a certain sensibility about it. But things just feel much more weightless now. So, like, I don't know that you could do a better job. I'm curious to watch. I only watched Criminality's version of this. I didn't want to watch anyone else's to get to have answers like, oh yeah, I'm agreeing with that guy and I'm going to use that one. So I'm curious to check this tag out and to see what other people thought about that question, because off the top of my head, I couldn't think of one at the moment. Okay, and so what series is your favorite adaptation? So I think LA Confidential is my favorite book to movie, or book to screen, however it goes. And I think for book series, again, I think it's Bosch. I think, there's the Harry Bosch novels written by Michael Connelly, very good writer, but he's very hit and miss. I found that Black Echo, I think the first book was very good. Then I think I tried Black Ice and Concrete Blonde and just kind of sputtered. I think I tried Trunk Music, I sputtered out. So I feel like he's a I hate to say this, but he's a serviceable mystery writer. He does a lot of research. He used to be a crime reporter, so his books always feel very authentic. And he does his homework, but as a writer, he kind of hit it out of the park for me with one book, and the subsequent books really haven't grabbed me. However, I really loved Bosch. I loved most of the seasons, and I really liked Bosch Legacy now that they're continuing it on some other freebie channel, some other Amazon offshoot channel. But they do a great job. It's the show that feels most like The Wire, HBO's The Wire, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. It's kind of The Wire light, but I feel like they do a very good job with multiple storylines and character development. And really, I have no desire to go and read any more Michael Connelly after seeing, because I'm sure I've seen most of the novels dramatized the way they did it. So Bosch probably is my favorite. I think what they mean is series of books adaptation. So I'm adding one to this just because, like I was saying before, sometimes I don't want to see things adapted to screen, and I think for me, I never want to see Neuromancer adapted to the screen ever. The good news is I think we're past kind of the point where you would adapt Neuromancer, because Gibson's in a weird way, Neil Stephenson was a little more prescient as to what the internet might be in terms of, or what the internet might look like as we think about now in science fiction. Like, I feel like now for science fiction, when we think of like the future internet, it's jacking in to a full, simulation. And Gibson did that too, but his versions of that technology were offline. They called SimStims, and there were these little devices that were able to replicate it. But Gibson's internet is like, it almost looks like that old coin-operated game Asteroids. It's all lights and lines, and very abstract. Like his internet stuff was very abstract in that way. And the book really, to me, lives because of the language and because of what happens in the real world and all of the cool technology. There's not a lot of internet stuff, but I feel like in a way we're almost past that technology in terms of real life. So I don't really know that you could adapt Neuromancer in a way that would be satisfying now. I mean, maybe it's not true, but I never want anyone to adapt it because I think it's such a great novel. I also don't think it has a lot of deep characterization. It's really a film noir template that Gibson used, and it's just so much more going on that you don't realize. I mean, I've read it probably half a dozen times. So I kind of realized that, don't peel it too far under the skin because there's not a lot of depth to Neuromancer, but it is a high wire act of like untold proportions. Like, it's a brilliant book in that way. But I think if you tried to adapt it, you'd find that these characters really, there's not much there. And then you'd have to build stories around them, and I think it would like kill it. I'm making up a last question. Please, universe, never let Neuromancer get adapted. So that's it. So that's my book tag, book to movie adaptations. What a pleasure to do, and hopefully I'll be posting, a little earlier than 2 months next time. Anyway, what a pleasure. See you next time.